Single moms are some of the strongest people you'll ever meet, not because they want to be, but because they have to be. They carry the world in one hand and their child in the other, smiling through battles no one sees. But even the strongest hearts can break when cruelty decides to test their limits. That's what happened one afternoon at the crosswalk. She'd been hurrying home from the grocery store, her daughter skipping beside her, when a man in a pressed suit bumped into her, and his coffee splashed across his sleeve. She apologized instantly, even offered to pay, but he didn't want an apology. He wanted an audience. "Watch where you're going," he sneered, then twisted the cap off his water bottle and poured it over her head, right there in the street. Her daughter froze, wide-eyed, clutching the grocery bag. The crowd stared, some laughed, and the man smirked, proud, cruel, untouchable. Until Jasonstatham, standing a few feet away, stepped forward without a word. And from that moment on, the man learned there's a difference between being strong and being heartless. Before we continue, if you've been following these stories, you already know they're not just about Jasonstatham stepping in. They're about what happens when someone finally decides enough is enough. When kindness meets courage and silence breaks in the right way. So if you've ever watched someone be treated unfairly and wished you'd spoken up, stay with this one. Because what happened next reminded everyone that decency isn't weakness, it's power used right. The city wasn't cruel, not always. It just moved too fast to notice the people it bruised. Cars groaned through intersections, horns blared at nothing, and faces passed each other without recognition. In the middle of that blur walked Mara, a woman who had learned to carry her life in quiet pieces. A single mom, a survivor of small battles that no one ever saw. She held her daughter Lily's hand, the girl skipping beside her with the kind of innocence that still believed the world was mostly good. Mara smiled at her every few steps, not because the day had been easy, but because Lily deserved to think it was. A soft drizzle clung to the air. Grocery bags swayed from Mara's other hand, bread, a bit of milk, a pack of crayons she couldn't really afford but bought anyway because Lily had smiled at them. They were halfway across the crosswalk when it happened. A man in a tailored gray suit brushed past, talking loudly on his phone. He wasn't looking, not at the street, not at anyone. His shoulder hit Mara's arm and the coffee cup he carried splashed across his cuff. He stopped instantly, staring at the dark stain like she'd committed a crime. "Watch it," he barked. Mara froze. "I'm so sorry," she said quickly. "I didn't." He raised his voice. "You didn't look, that's what you didn't do." People on the sidewalk turned. Lily shrank behind her mum's leg, clutching tighter. Mara bowed her head slightly, her voice calm. "It was an accident, sir. I'll pay for the dry cleaning." He scoffed, glancing around as if performing for the growing crowd. "Dry cleaning? Lady, this suit costs more than your month's rent." A few chuckles from bystanders, the kind of cheap laughter that turns embarrassment into entertainment. Mara tried to walk away. "I'm sorry," she said again, her voice breaking slightly. "Please just let me go." But he wasn't done. Some people, when handed a moment of power, squeeze it until it hurts. He stepped in front of her. "You think you can just walk off? You ruin someone's morning and what, smile it away?" Her throat tightened. She didn't answer. Lily's eyes darted between them, confused, frightened. Then the man did something that silenced even the city noise. He twisted the cap off his bottle of water slowly, deliberately, and poured it over her head. The splash echoed like a slap. Mara gasped, water running down her face and soaking her blouse. Lily screamed, trying to wipe her mother's cheek with small, trembling hands. "Mummy." The man smirked. "Next time keep your eyes open." For a few seconds no one moved. People looked away, some murmuring, others pretending to scroll their phones, anything to avoid the shame of not helping. Then a voice broke through, calm, controlled, British. "That's enough." The man turned. Standing a few steps away in a black coat and quiet posture was Jasonstatham. He wasn't angry, not yet. His tone was even, but there was something in it that made the air tighten. The man scoffed. "Who are you supposed to be, the manners police?" Jason didn't answer. He stepped closer, eyes never leaving the man's. "She apologized, you made your point, walk away." The man laughed, but it came out shaky. "Mate, this doesn't concern you." Jason tilted his head slightly, his voice steady. You're standing in front of a woman and a child making a fool of yourself. It concerns everyone." The crowd went silent. Mara blinked through the water dripping down her lashes. "Please, it's okay," she whispered to Jason. "I just want to go." Jason glanced at her, a brief look, soft, reassuring, before turning back to the man. "You've got two options. You leave quietly, or you make a scene you won't like the end of." The man took a step forward, puffing himself up. "Is that supposed to be a threat?" Jason's voice dropped, barely above a whisper. "No, it's advice." For a heartbeat, neither moved. The tension stretched like a live wire. Then the man chuckled nervously, trying to shake it off. "You're insane, mate." Jason didn't blink. "You'll want to walk away before you find out." Something in his tone, calm but absolute, sank in. The man hesitated, then muttered something under his breath and turned, pushing through the onlookers. Jason waited until he was gone before crouching beside Mara and Lily. "You all right?" Mara nodded quickly, her hands shaking. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice betrayed her. "I'm fine." Lily still clung to her. Jason looked at her gently. "You did good, sweetheart. You stayed brave." The girl didn't answer, just nodded against her mother's coat. Jason stood, looking at the people who were still watching. "Show's over," he said simply. "Next time you see something like that, don't wait for someone else to step in." One by one, the crowd dispersed, eyes low. Jason handed Mara a small napkin from his pocket. "You shouldn't have to deal with that." She smiled weakly. "You didn't have to step in." He shrugged. "Yeah, I did." Lily looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you." Jason gave her a soft nod, the faintest smile touching his face. "Take care of your mum, yeah." He turned to leave, but Mara called after him. "Wait." He paused. She hesitated. You look familiar." He smirked faintly. "I get that sometimes." Then he disappeared into the steady crowd, leaving mother and daughter standing beneath the city's gray sky. But the story didn't end there. 2 days later, Mara was at her job, a small diner tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and the regulars were kind. Usually. That afternoon, the bell above the door jingled, and her stomach dropped. The man in the gray suit walked in. He spotted her instantly, a slow smile spreading across his face. Well, look who's here." Mara froze behind the counter. "Please don't." He leaned forward on the counter, lowering his voice. "You made me look like a fool out there. My boss saw the video. I lost a client because of you." "I didn't." "SHH." He raised a finger, tapping it against the counter. "You think that tough guy from the street's going to protect you now?" Her pulse quickened. She glanced toward the door, half hoping, half terrified. He smirked. "Didn't think so." Lily was sitting in the back booth, drawing quietly. Mara's eyes darted toward her, and the man noticed. His grin widened. "Cute kid. Shame if she saw Mummy cry again." Mara's voice trembled. "Leave her out of this." He leaned closer. "Then tell me something. What's her name?" She swallowed hard. "Why?" "Because," he whispered, "I want to make sure she remembers mine." Before Mara could respond, the bell jingled again. The man's expression flickered, annoyance first, then unease. Jasonstatham walked in. This time he wasn't just passing by. His eyes went straight to Mara, then to the man leaning over her counter. "Small world," Jason said quietly. The man straightened instantly, forcing a smile. "Oh, you again." Jason's tone stayed calm, almost conversational. "You left something unfinished last time." The man chuckled nervously. "Look, mate, I don't want trouble." Jason walked closer, each step steady. "That's funny, you already brought it." The air in the diner changed. Even the hum of the fridge in the corner felt distant. Mara whispered, "Please, not here." Jason looked at her, a silent promise in his eyes. Then he turned back to the man. "You get one chance to walk out that door and never come back. Take it." The man's bravado cracked. "You think you scare me?" Jason didn't answer. He just looked at him, not with fury, with something worse. A kind of stillness that told you he didn't need to raise his voice to end things. The man finally scoffed, stepping back toward the door. "This isn't over." Jason's voice followed him out. "It is for you." The bell jingled. Silence returned. Mara exhaled shakily. "You didn't have to." Jason turned slightly, his expression softer now. Yeah, I did. He looked toward Lily, who was peeking out from behind the booth. You okay, kid? She nodded, clutching her crayons. Jason smiled faintly. Good, keep drawing. The world needs more color. And with that he left again, quiet, controlled, leaving only the sound of the bell behind him. But that night, as Mara locked up the diner, a shadow passed across the window. The same man waiting, this time with someone else. Her breath caught. The lock clicked too late. The door creaked open. And from the alley, unseen, someone else was already watching. Jason. The lock clicked and Mara's hand froze on the key. She didn't even turn, she could feel them before she saw them. The man in the gray suit stepped through the doorway first, that same mocking grin plastered across his face. Behind him stood another, taller, broader, wearing a jacket that looked borrowed from a thug's wardrobe. Evening, the man said, as if greeting an old friend. I told you this wasn't over. Mara's voice came out in a whisper. Please, just go, I don't want any more trouble. He stepped closer, tapping the counter with his knuckles. See, that's the thing. You are the trouble. You embarrassed me twice, once in public and once in front of my client. Now you're gonna make that right. Her chest rose and fell, panic flickering behind her eyes. I didn't. He cut her off. SHH, his tone darkened. You'll listen now, you're gonna apologize properly, and maybe I'll let you keep your job. The taller one chuckled lowly, like it was all a game. Mara's hands trembled as she reached for the phone under the counter, but the man saw it. He grabbed her wrist. Don't. She gasped, trying to pull back, but he squeezed harder. Let me go, she whispered. He leaned closer. Say sorry first. A small sound broke the tension, the bell above the door jingling softly. The man froze. Slowly he turned his head. Jasonstatham stood just inside the doorway, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. He didn't speak right away, he just watched the scene. The man's hand on her wrist, the fear in her eyes, the second guy by the counter, every detail burned quietly behind his stare. Then he said evenly, You've made 3 mistakes. The man frowned, confused but defensive. What? Jason took a slow step forward. 1. You walked back into a place where you were already told to leave. 2. You touched a woman who already told you no. He paused, his voice lowering until it felt like the air itself listened. And 3. You didn't notice me standing outside for the last 5 minutes. The man's smirk faltered. Look, mate, this isn't your business. Jason kept walking. You keep saying that, but you keep making it my business. The taller man stepped forward, puffing his chest. Back off, old man. Jason stopped, tilting his head slightly. You think this is gonna go your way? The thug cracked his knuckles. It's 2 against 1. Jason nodded slowly. Then you should have brought more. What happened next wasn't loud, it was precise. The kind of movement that came from years of control, not rage. The thug lunged first, big mistake. Jason sidestepped, caught his wrist and slammed his palm into the man's chest. The air left his lungs before he even hit the floor. He went down hard, groaning. The man in the suit panicked. What the? He swung blindly, but Jason caught his arm mid-motion, twisted, and sent him crashing into the counter. A stack of menus toppled with him. Jason didn't look angry, he looked disappointed. I warned you. The man scrambled to his feet, holding his side. You're insane. Jason didn't reply, he just stepped closer, calm as stone. You think throwing water on a woman makes you strong. It doesn't, it makes you small. The man backed up, eyes darting toward the door. I'll call the police. Jason cut him off quietly. You should. The man hesitated, realizing the shift. Jason wasn't threatening him. He was inviting him to face consequences. Jason turned slightly toward Mara. You all right? She nodded shakily, her voice barely audible. I think so. Jason's eyes softened. Take your daughter and lock the door. I'll handle this. But the man in the suit wasn't done. Pride has a way of making cowards reckless. He grabbed a coffee pot from the counter and hurled it. Jason caught it midair, one hand, easy, and set it down without looking away from him. That broke whatever illusion of control the man had left. He bolted for the exit, stumbling into the rain. The taller one crawled after him, limping, clutching his ribs. Jason followed them out, quiet and deliberate. The night air was cold and the rain came down heavier now, blurring the streetlights. "Where you going?" Jason asked, voice low. The man spun around, desperation twisting his face. "Stay away from me." Jason stepped closer. "You've been given more chances than you deserve. Take this one and leave her alone for good." The man spat rainwater, shaking his head. "You think you can scare me?" Jason stared at him. "No, I can teach you." The man lunged again, a mistake he'd regret instantly. Jason moved like a ghost, one sidestep, one precise strike to the shoulder, then a sweep that dropped him to the wet pavement. The man gasped, his cheek pressing into a puddle. Jason crouched beside him. "You think strength is hurting people who can't fight back. It's not. It's knowing you could and choosing not to." The man wheezed, "You don't know me." Jason's tone stayed calm. "I know what you'll be if you keep this up, alone, broke, despised. You'll spend your life proving you're not weak when everyone can already see you are." He stood, glancing at the thug who hadn't moved from the curb. "Get him out of here." They scrambled to their feet, slipping on the wet street, and stumbled into the night. Jason watched until their figures disappeared into the blur of headlights. Then he turned back toward the diner. Through the window, he saw Mara and Lily sitting together, the little girl's hands cupped around her mum's face, whispering something. The lights from inside softened the scene, almost cinematic in its simplicity, safety returning to a place where fear had just lived. Jason stood there for a long moment before walking back in. Mara looked up immediately. "Are they gone?" Jason nodded. "Yeah." She exhaled, tears spilling now that the danger had passed. "You didn't have to do that." He gave a faint smile. "Seems to be a theme with me lately." Lily looked up at him. "Mister, are you a superhero?" Jason crouched beside her, shaking his head lightly. "No, sweetheart, just someone who doesn't like seeing bad people win." Lily tilted her head. "Then you're a good person." He chuckled softly. "Maybe on good days." Mara wiped her tears, her voice trembling. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to," Jason said simply. "Just don't let people like that make you smaller. They count on silence." She nodded, holding Lily close. "I won't." Jason reached into his coat and placed a card on the counter. "That's a lawyer I know, specializes in harassment and workplace abuse. He owes me a favor. Call him tomorrow." Mara blinked. "You didn't have to." He interrupted gently. "I did." For a moment no one spoke, just the hum of the lights and the rain outside. Then Jason glanced at Lily's drawings scattered on the table, crayon sketches of flowers, a small house, and a figure that looked suspiciously like him. He smiled faintly. "You draw?" She nodded shyly. "When Mum's working." He picked up one of the drawings. "You've got talent, don't stop." Lily smiled, her first real one since that afternoon. Jason slipped the drawing into his jacket pocket. "I'll keep this one, to remind me why people like you deserve better." He turned toward the door. Mara called after him, "Jason." He stopped, half turning. Why do you help people like us?" she asked softly. "You don't even know us." Jason's eyes flicked to the rain outside, then back to her. "Because someone once helped me when nobody else would." He gave her a small nod, almost like a salute, and stepped back into the rain. By morning, the story had already spread. Someone from across the street had recorded part of it, the man throwing water, the confrontation that followed. It hit social media by noon. Jasonstatham defends single mum from street harassment. Real-life hero intervenes in shocking bullying incident. People commented, praised, debated, but Jason didn't read any of it. He was sitting in his car, parked near the edge of the city, holding Lily's crayon drawing in his hand. The paper was a little wrinkled, the colors uneven, but the message was clear. A mother and daughter smiling beneath a blue sky. Beside them, a man drawn in bold black lines, standing tall. Above it, in shaky handwriting, it said, "Thank you for helping my mummy." Jason smiled quietly, folded the paper, and slipped it into his glove box, right beside a handful of other drawings, notes, and mementos from the lives he'd crossed paths with. He started the car, but before driving off, he glanced in the rearview mirror, as if half expecting to see that diner again. Instead, all he saw was the reflection of a gray sky breaking open to sunlight. He exhaled, because for him, it was never about being seen. It was about knowing that, somewhere in a small corner of the world, a mother could walk her daughter to school without fear, because someone decided not to look away. That was enough. That was his peace.